right before your eyes. Step by step, you're on your way. Welcome to a brighter day. Don't you know it feels good to be alive?
Okay, welcome to Live Life Driven episode from the Answer is Yes podcast. Thanks for tuning in. You know, I don't know what you're doing this summer, but I am enjoying every single minute. And I've got my friend on the line, Stu Massengill. How you doing, buddy?
I am doing phenomenal, blessed, grateful, like we were just speaking about a little bit ago, and just enjoying life, man. So thank you so much for having me here.
I saw your post today about being grateful, and I love that so much. Before we go to bed every night, my wife and my two daughters, we each say 3 things that we're grateful for. You know, and sometimes they're the same thing, and sometimes there's something different. And, you know, children are so amazing. They will come up with stuff, and you're like, wow, that is incredibly deep, you know? And they really they really get you to a place where you need to be sometimes. So thank you for your post, and it's a great reminder for us all to be grateful for what we have, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like you and I were talking about earlier, it's like sometimes we go in life and we move and we're just so go that we forget to say, like, take a deep breath, look around, like, be happy for what you have today and where you're at today, because it probably took a lot of work to get there.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with go, but sometimes if you don't look around and realize, okay, by the way, this was on my goals list a couple of years ago or 6 months ago, and you're living it, it'll pass you right by. And then where you at that point, you know? So I just love it. I love it.
Absolutely. Me too.
So this my last show, speaking of go, was titled "The Gas Pedal's on the Right." And if you listen to it, and this is a perfect intro for what Stu's going to talk about today. But I like to find seasons that I could take advantage of business. When other people are cruising or not paying attention, I like to take those times to really step on the gas and like push my business and reach out harder and work stronger, you know, and really make a difference. Probably the best example, and I'm not saying don't celebrate, but like Christmas time, people take like 2 or 3 weeks off, you know.
Yeah.
They're just gone. And, you know, I like to work the peripheral there and take advantage of getting ahead of my competitors or doing just a little bit more. You know, if you listen to Ed Milet at all, and so I'm an Arte Syndicate member, and if you listen to Ed, who runs that thing, he talks about like just do one more, or you know, when people are sleeping, you're out there working, and I think it's important, you know, if you really want to get ahead. And you know, coming out of COVID right now, you know, a lot of cities and states are post-COVID, and now's the time to get after it. You know, like get out there and really step on the gas where people are still in a fog. Get out there and just do what you can to get ahead of your competition. And you know, I want to talk about a lot of things with you, but the point of this call with you today was you've got something coming up that is absolutely going to help people get ahead and kind of step on the gas, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, talk about your program.
So a little 2 seconds about myself for those of you, if you see my face that didn't hear the podcast Jim and I did before, is my name, you know, Stu Massengill, as Jim mentioned. And for the last 10 years, I've basically been obsessed in the personal development world. I kind of grew up as like the shy, quiet kid. And once I was introduced to personal development, it basically like flipped my world upside down, right? And it took me to places where I started speaking on stages in front of people when public speaking was my biggest fear, and eventually led to working at a company, Vans. And now I work with Tony Robbins, and kind of ultimately it's brought me to where I'm at today, which is what we're speaking about, is basically on a mission now to help people build a life that they actually love. And I think, as you're saying, you know, we're coming out of COVID, so it's kind of a little bit more apparent now, but I think sometimes we go throughout our life and we're kind of waiting for things to change. Like we think there's going to be this big moment where even coming out of COVID, it's like, well, when is that moment going to be that in 3 months, 6 months, 12 months out of COVID, that all of a sudden it's like, okay, I'm back and I'm moving and I'm going. And it's like, that day is never going to come until you take a step in your life to say, I'm making that day today. And so that's kind of what we're doing right now with people. Is I have this 5-day free challenge, and it's called the Find Your Future Challenge. And it's all about helping people answer the question, what do you want to do with your life? And just from my personal life, it's like I went through a phase probably 6 years ago where I had found something in my life that I loved. Like I know you've done this in your life many times. Yeah, it's like if you love what you do, you really never work a day in your life. And I got to taste that. And people say that once your mind expands, it can never contract. And so once that was no longer what I was doing, I went into this deep place of honestly like suffering and asking myself, what the heck do I want to do with my life? Why am I here? What's my purpose? Like all these questions, trying to basically like find my direction. And it ultimately led me to realizing that like you can do work that lights up your soul every single day. And so, not to go on a giant rant here, but basically in the 5-day challenge, we're in 5 days for like 15 minutes a day. We're just going to be looking at like, what do you want to do with your life? And I think, as you said, as we're coming out of COVID, it's kind of a perfect time right now to look at your life, say, am I where I want to be? Am I not? And more importantly, like, what am I going to do about that?
Yeah, and what's cool about this program is that it puts some discipline to your thought process and really making a point of direction. And some of us are aware of that. We're both in the industry of helping others and influencing and kind of putting these things together for our clients. So we're probably pretty good at, looking at our lives, reevaluating. One of the things I was going to tell you is I just hired a publicist a couple of weeks ago to jump back into my business. And what I realized is that I was getting very complacent in my business, enjoying, still successful, and no complaints. But I thought, you know what? If I get too complacent in my day-to-day, I'm going to look back and go, wow, I lost a lot of opportunity there. So I hired a publicist. I redirected my own business plan, drafted up some new goals based on what my values are, and I'm stepping on the gas again, right? At a time where maybe I don't need to, but what I've learned is what you're doing today is going to affect 90 days from now. So if I'm cruising right now and I'm not promoting and working my business, 90 days from now, I might look at my wallet and it could be empty going, what happened to my business, right? And so complacency can be a dangerous thing to happen to you. And I think that using tools like what you're putting together for people can not only be for a great way to restart or start for the first time, or an opportunity for you to reevaluate, who you are and what you're doing and where you're going.
Yeah, 100%. And one of the things that like I always think about, and it's such a like fascinating thought to me, is it's like we truly live in an abundant world. Like you, just like we were before we started recording, you were talking about it, like you're living your dream in Montana on a ranch, got your chickens, your horses, all these things. And it's like we live in an abundant world where you truly can do anything with your life. You just have to figure out like, what is it that lights you up? Like I was having a conversation with someone the other day and we kind of got into the topic of like, what is a job, for example? And I think, so many people go throughout their life and they go, well, it's where you make money. It's where, you put in time and it maybe provides for your family. But what I think it really is it's like, it's a way to just express the light that you're supposed to bring to this world. Mm-hmm. And it's like, if we live in an abundant world, and someone else out there is living your dream job, why not do what it takes? Why not be driven to figure out what it is that lights up your light? Because someone else is doing it. So why not have that person be you? So you actually like really enjoy your life. You're not just kind of existing. You're really like living.
Yeah. I first heard that term abundant world or living an abundant life from David Meltzer, who I'd worked with for a couple of years. And
he's a good guy.
What's interesting about that is that abundance comes in a lot of forms. For myself, as an example, I've always had an abundance, I'll say a moderate amount of financial success and good jobs. But what I didn't realize is how abundant we are as a society in kindness and generosity and goodwill. And I started focusing maybe 10 years ago on an abundance of friendships, our kindness with the people around me. And it is amazing how generous and kind people are. I really see it up here in Montana. And all you have to do is take a second and look around. Like if you're in that Starbucks line, you got your phone in your face, like look up, say hello to the person in front of you or behind you. Hey, like your shoes or whatever it is to start that conversation. Right. And you'll realize that not only could you have an abundance in your financial life and in your work life, but you can have an abundance in kindness and generosity around you by just knowing that it's there. And so I've taken that word to a whole different level outside of what most people immediately think of as success or finances, and in an abundance of kindness, which again I think is an important factor in the political climate that we live in and kind of some of the drag that we see on the news or here in the news cycle, that there's an abundance of great people in society, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like you use that abundance of kindness in your life today. And it's crazy that like if you do go give someone a compliment in Starbucks line or whatever it is, it's like the amount of good feelings you get from that, it's unbelievable, right? Like just by doing something kind for someone else, it always comes back to you. So it's like, why not go out there and take that step?
Well, it sets the pace for the day for sure. Just like, you had posted that thing about being grateful. And I saw your post was a list of grateful things that, things that you were grateful for. If you can start your day that way, if you start your day with gratefulness, your entire day will be filled that way. You start your day out on a good note and believe all these things that you have and be grateful for them. You can overachieve anything that you encounter for the day.
Yeah. Every day I wake up, I write down 10 things I'm grateful for. And it's like 5 are things that are in my life, and then 5 are things that are not yet in my life, but I write it in the present tense to basically like pull it into my body to make sure that I can get there quicker.
Yeah.
And it's a practice that is 100% changed my life, changes the way I show up every single day. Cause it's like, we all have those mornings where you wake up and you're like, eesh, got to do this thing, or that thing just happened to me, or what. And it's like, if you can just ground yourself for 5 minutes in the morning and write down 10 things you're grateful for, it'll change the trajectory of your day, which changes the trajectory of your week, of your month, of your year, and then obviously ultimately your life.
Well, it goes back to, just looking at yourself and being grateful for the things you have and saying, instead of I got to do this, I get to do this. Like for me, with all these animals, I get up in the morning, I get my coffee, and I go outside and I start feeding the animals, which we've got over 30 animals on my property. And instead of going, oh my gosh, I got to go feed the animals, it's like, hey, I get to feed these animals because 3 years ago on my goal list, I had written down to have a property that was big enough to have horses. And here I am. So I get to feed them. And all of a sudden I'm going out there and I'm petting and talking to them and, we're being buddies and stuff. Like, wow, what a great thing I get to do, even if it's just feeding the animals or picking up the poop or whatever it is, it's just a little bit of a wording change and we can be so much happier. We get to do these things.
Right. And it's like, even if you look back 3 years ago when you set out the intention, right? Where it's like, I think a lot of the times we go through life and we go, well, one day I'll get there, or someday I'll live the dream life. But it's like, if we don't again, take a step and say like, this is what I want to create with my life, with my future, and plan that out, then it's like, we're not going to wake up one day and be there. And I think that's why a lot of people do go through their life and they wake up, whatever the midlife crisis age is now, but it's like you wake up one day and you go, how the heck did I get here? And it's because you never took a moment to say, well, where do I actually want to go?
Yeah. Now, it might seem to people that are listening like some of these are just cliche topics because it's what they hear. But, these things work. They're important. There's value to them. If you practice them, you take the time to write those things down that you're grateful for. One of the neat things that I get to do once in a while. So this isn't really the best way to do this, but I write down my goals on an Excel spreadsheet on my computer, right? And so it does sit on my desktop, but it's not open every day. I'm not going to lie and say, I get up and look at my goals every day. I don't. I mean, the right way to do it is probably have it on a chalkboard in your office or somewhere where you see them every day. It's just my way of doing it. But what's cool is I forget about opening up the list for months at a time because I know in my head what they are, right? But I've had so much fun looking at that list going, oh, shit, I did that like 4 months ago and checking the box, One of them was to have a horse trailer because that's an asset that you need when you got animals, right? And we had bought one months ago, and last week I opened the list. I'm like, oh, horse trailer's on there. I clicked that box months ago. It just feels so good when you have those goals and you write them down and you look to achieve them. Obviously that's an asset thing. It's not something big and spectacular, but when you have them, you get to go back and check off the box, and you're achieving this because you've written them down. You've put them into your mindset and you're working towards them. So I want to encourage everybody to write down your goals, look at them often, not like I don't, but hey, I'm going to put you on the spot. What are some of the little tools that you use in your life to be better in business or better in life or to achieve the successes that you have?
Yeah. So I would say one of the big ones is practicing gratitude because I